There comes a moment in every life, a flicker, a pause, a crossroads. Not the kind made of dirt and pavement, but the kind made of thought and will. And in that moment we are faced with a truth too sharp to ignore. You will never build an extraordinary life with an ordinary mind. You can't win big with a small mind. You can't claim the summit if your mindset is stuck in the valley. You can't build an empire if your beliefs are still renting from fear. And you must not expect the world to give you more than your mind has been trained to receive. The mind is the gatekeeper. The mind is the architect. The mind is the battlefield where dreams are either forged or buried. Every breakthrough begins inside. Look at Edison, not just the man who gave us light, but the man who refused to sit in the dark. 10,000 failures? No. 10,000 lessons, 10,000 recalibrations. That wasn't genius. That was mindset. That was the belief that the answer was already out there, waiting for someone stubborn enough, bold enough, hungry enough to find it. But let's bring this closer to you. Right now, what thoughts have you been renting space to? What beliefs have you let sleep in your house, drink from your cup, live under your roof, even though they never pay rent? I'm not ready. It's too late. What if I fail? Thoughts that shrink your world, thoughts that shrink your power. And here's the dangerous part. A small mind is excellent at appearing rational. It sounds smart, logical, responsible. It tells you to be careful, to wait, to think it over, but really it's building a cage with velvet bars, comfortable, familiar, and lethal. You don't break out of that cage with more caution. You shatter it with clarity. And clarity doesn't come from the outside. It begins with decision, not confusion, not consensus. Decision. There is a difference between people who have a dream and people who are owned by one. The first group fits their dream into their life. The second reshapes their life around the dream. And the dividing line between them is mindset. That's why two people can be handed the same opportunity, the same day, the same tools, and one will build a legacy, while the other builds excuses. One sees risk as fuel, the other sees it as fire. One says, what if it goes wrong? The other says, what if this changes everything? What if it does? Let me tell you what they don't teach in school. Your mind is programmable, but it's not programmed by chance, it's programmed by choice. Repetition, exposure, environment. You are constantly being conditioned by the voices you listen to, the people you surround yourself with, the habits you repeat when no one is watching. And if you don't program your mind, someone else will. Society will. Fear will. Scarcity will. That old voice in your head, the one that sounds like your parents, or your worst teacher, or your past. That voice will. So here's the line in the sand. Upgrade your thinking, or downgrade your future. You want wealth? It starts with thought. Not just working harder, but thinking bigger, seeing more, believing deeper. You want health? It starts with respecting yourself enough to say, I deserve to feel powerful. You want freedom? Then start by freeing your mind from the invisible limits you've inherited. It's not hustle first, it's headspace first. Hustle with a broken belief system only gets you exhaustion. But when your mindset is calibrated to abundance, to vision, to inevitability, then every action you take becomes multiplied. But this doesn't happen overnight. Every empire was first built as an idea. Every skyscraper started as a line on paper. Every revolution began in silence, inside a person who said, this can't be all there is. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're the one standing at the edge of your old story, hearing the whispers of the new one. Maybe you're tired of shrinking. Maybe you're done living inside limits you never agreed to. Maybe you're ready to break the chains of normal and walk into the arena of the bold. If so, then listen carefully, because this isn't about motivation. This is about transformation. Motivation fades, hype fades, but a forged mind, that's permanent. You don't need a louder alarm clock. You need a louder reason. You don't need to do more. You need to become more. And you do that by feeding your mind the thoughts it was built for. Greatness isn't rare. It's just rarely claimed. Your mind is a garden. Every thought is a seed. You are planting every day, whether you know it or not. And if you don't like what's growing, check the seeds, check the soil, check what you've been watering with your attention. Jim Rohn said, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. And today that philosophy isn't just a quote, it's your mirror, because life isn't waiting for perfect timing, it's waiting for a stronger you. But here's the catch, strength doesn't come from comfort, it comes from confrontation, confronting your doubts, confronting your patterns, confronting your past, because until you face it, it owns you. And anything that owns you controls you. So we confront it with vision, with clarity, with belief. The small mind says, I hope it works. The big mind says, I'll make it work. The The small mind sees the wall. The big mind finds the door, or makes one. The small mind needs permission. The big mind gives itself permission. And it's not about ego. It's about ownership. Owning your time, owning your growth, owning your results, not blaming, not waiting, not pointing fingers, but pointing inward. Because when you change the inner world, the outer world bends to match. That's the law, not of attraction, but of alignment. When your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions all line up in harmony with your vision, you become a force no obstacle can resist. That's what they never told you. That alignment isn't a buzzword. It's a weapon. When your belief matches your behavior, and your behavior matches your ambition, the universe starts to move. People feel it. Doors open, not because of magic, but because of momentum. But you cannot create momentum with a mind stuck in survival. And that's what so many are trapped in. A default mode of merely making it through, scraping by, dimming their light so others don't feel blind, apologizing for wanting more, shrinking their dreams into bite-sized portions just to fit someone else's appetite. But let me tell you something. You were not designed for survival. You were engineered for significance. There is a fire in you that no paycheck can satisfy, no weekend can fulfill, no vacation can silence. And that fire, that's vision trying to scream through the noise. Vision doesn't whisper in lazy minds. It burns in restless ones. The restless ones are the builders, the creators, the ones who don't sleep until the work means something, until the life they're living feels like it belongs to them. Not to their boss, not to their fear, not to some past version of themselves. That's the mind you need. A mind that's not just awake, but aware. Aware that time is not a guarantee. Aware that procrastination is theft. Aware that comfort zones are beautifully decorated prisons. Because here's the brutal truth. Every minute you spend doubting your power is a minute given away to mediocrity. Every second you hesitate is another second. The old version of you stays alive. The version that plays small, that waits for approval, that asks for permission to rise. You have to kill that version. Not softly, not gently, ruthlessly. You have to bury that small mind, so your greatness has room to breathe. Because you can't build a future while protecting your past. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It matters what you decide to become. Your story can either be a weight or a weapon. That choice is yours. Lincoln came from poverty. Carnegie started in a factory. Oprah was told she didn't belong. Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Ford was laughed out of the room. But they weren't building for the moment. They were building for generations. And that mindset, that hunger, that long game, that vision in the face of ridicule, is what separates the remembered from the forgotten. So ask yourself, are you planting for harvest, or are you reacting to hunger? That's the difference between dreamers and doers. The dreamer waits, the doer moves. The dreamer wishes, the doer wills. A small mind wants the outcome without the process. It wants the reward without the repetition. But there are no shortcuts on the path to mastery, and there are no trophies for hesitation. Clarity is your compass. Discipline is your fuel. Discipline, not motivation, not moods, not morning vibes, but the ability to act consistently, especially when you don't feel like it, especially when it's raining, especially when no one is clapping, because success is quiet. At first it grows in silence. It builds when no one sees. It compounds in the dark, like roots digging deep beneath the surface before a single leaf ever shows. And that's where most people give up. Because they confuse silence with failure. They mistake stillness for lack of progress. But every master knows you grow beneath before you rise above. Let your roots grow. Let your rituals dig in. Let your mind become unshakable, so when the storm hits, and it will, you're not begging for motivation. You're already moving. Discipline isn't punishment. It's preparation. It's the highest form of self-respect. It says, I'm not here to dabble. I'm not here to try my best. I'm here to execute. And when that level of intention meets a mind no longer shackled by fear, what you create will be undeniable. You can't win big with a small mind, because small minds can't handle big pressure. Small minds fold when it gets tough. Small minds settle when it gets uncomfortable. But a powerful mind, that's forged in the fire. It welcomes resistance. It thrives in discomfort, because it knows resistance builds resilience. And resilience is not optional. It's required. If you plan to lead, if you plan to rise, if you plan to matter, then get ready to be misunderstood. Get ready to walk alone. Get ready to get laughed at, doubted, ignored, not because you're wrong, but because you've outgrown the average. People will say you've changed. That's the point. Because if your mind hasn't changed, your life never will. This is the season of separation between the casual and the committed, the wanderers and the warriors, the ones who say one day, and the ones who say day one. Which are you? This world doesn't owe you understanding. It doesn't owe you applause. It doesn't owe you anything. But you owe yourself everything. You owe your younger self redemption. You owe your future self a foundation. You owe your present self a decision. So make one, right here, right now. Declare war on the small thoughts. Evict the doubts. Fire the excuses. Stop negotiating with average. Stop tolerating the voice that tells you to wait, to slow down, to be realistic. Be unreasonable. Be relentless. Be undeniable. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a human being who finally decides to believe. Not blindly, not naively, but boldly, strategically, unapologetically. When your mind becomes your ally, nothing stays impossible for long. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be unavailable for less. Unavailable for less. That's the new standard. Not just for what you do, but for how you think. You see, small minds focus on obstacles. Big minds focus on outcomes. Small minds need validation. Big minds operate from values. Small minds say this is too hard. Big minds say this is the cost of greatness. And make no mistake, there is a cost. There's a cost for staying small and a cost for rising up. The difference is one costs you your future. The other buys it. Which are you willing to pay? Because playing small feels cheap until the bill shows up. Until you realize you traded your potential for comfort, traded your calling for convenience, traded your birthright for a version of yourself that made other people more comfortable. But now you know. You know that your thoughts create patterns, and your patterns create paths, and your paths shape your entire destiny. You know that beliefs are not inherited. They're chosen. And maybe it's time to choose new ones. Maybe it's time to believe that your past does not define you. That failure is not a verdict, it's feedback. That mistakes are not the enemy, they are the mentor. That everything you've been through was not meant to break you, but to build you. Because here's the paradox. Small minds avoid failure, but big minds grow from it. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before becoming president. He faced death, depression, defeat. But what separated him wasn't luck, it was mental fortitude. A mind not shaken by rejection, but refined by it. Because what if the rejection was the redirection? What if every closed door was pushing you toward a better one? One that requires a bigger version of you. One that can only be opened by the person you're becoming, not the one you've been. That's the test. Will you expand your mind wide enough to hold the vision you're chasing, or will you keep trying to fit a big life into a limited mindset? You can't build skyscrapers with sandbox blueprints. You need elevation, you need expansion, and that doesn't come by chance. It comes from daily confrontation, facing the thought patterns that shrink you, the habits that weaken you, the stories that lie to you. I'm not good enough. I'm not ready. I'm not like them. No, you're not like them. You were never meant to be. You were meant to be you. Fully activated, fully unleashed, fully engaged in the process of becoming unstoppable. But the world won't give that to you freely. It makes you prove it. It makes you get up early when everyone else is sleeping in. It makes you train when no one's watching. It makes you study when others are scrolling. And in those quiet, invisible moments, it builds you. The world doesn't reward the loud. It rewards the consistent. You don't need louder ambition. You need stronger execution. You don't need more goals. You need a non-negotiable standard for how you think and live and move and speak. Because a powerful life doesn't start with better conditions. It starts with a better internal condition. That's where greatness lives, inside discipline, inside decision, inside discomfort. Walt Disney went bankrupt 5 times before he built the most magical brand in history. Not because he had fairy dust, but because he had mental grit. He saw what others could not. He believed what others wouldn't. He didn't see a cartoon mouse. He saw an empire. That is the power of vision, backed by an unbreakable mind. And that is what you are building now. Piece by piece, layer by layer, thought by thought. Every time you reject the excuse, every time you refuse to settle, every time you get back up and say, "Not today, I'm not done." Because winners aren't born. They are sculpted. Sculpted by their routines, shaped by their struggle, forged by the days when everything said quit, but they said try me. And if you want to win big, you've got to train your mind like it already belongs on that level. You don't wait for the world to approve it. You train for it, think for it, build for it, act for it, live for it. Big dreams require a mind that doesn't shrink under pressure, but expands. That's the ultimate flex. Not flashy cars, not followers, but focus, discipline, control over your state, your schedule, your surroundings, and your story. You're not chasing success. You're becoming someone whose success is drawn to. Because when your mind is built like a fortress, you don't fear what's outside. You command it. The world doesn't bend for fear. It bends for clarity. It bends for people who know who they are and refuse to be anything less. So remember this. Small minds are reactive. Big minds are creative. Small minds live in survival. Big minds live in strategy. Small minds ask for guarantees. Big minds become the guarantee. And the best part, this is not genetics. This is discipline. This is daily decisions. This is mental conditioning. So condition it. Train it. Master it. Because you can't win big with a small mind. But if you build the kind of mind that's ready for war, the kind of mind that turns pressure into power, then there is nothing this world can withhold from you. You've already been given the materials. Now it's time to build the mindset. Not tomorrow. Not after things calm down. Now because the battlefield is already here. And your mind is either the weapon or the weakness. There comes a moment in every life, not marked by age, but by awakening. A moment where you stop negotiating with your limitations. Where you stop asking for permission to rise. Where you stop auditioning for rooms you were born to own. And when that moment comes, when the veil of excuses is lifted, when the lies you've inherited lose their grip, when the whispers of fear finally fall silent, something dangerous is born. A person who remembers who they are, not who the world told them to be, not who failure tried to make them, but who they really are. A force, a phenomenon, a spark wrapped in flesh, a soul carved from possibility, and that remembering, that's the death of the small mind. Because once you've seen what you're capable of, even just a glimpse, you cannot go back. You won't fit into the boxes anymore. You won't blend into the background. You won't apologize for your ambition. You'll carry it like a crown, because now you know, your dreams are not fantasies. They are assignments, gifts planted in you by design, and with them comes responsibility. Responsibility to think bigger, to walk bolder, to speak with fire in your bones and steel in your spirit, not just for you, but for every soul watching, wondering if it's possible for them too. That's leadership. That's legacy. And you don't need a title or a stage to live it. You just need the decision. The sacred, unwavering decision to never again settle for small. Let the world call you obsessed. Let them call you intense. Let them say you've changed. Yes, you have. You've upgraded your thoughts. You've fortified your habits. You've outgrown the version of you that begged for validation and lived on autopilot. And now you wake up with fire. Now you move like your life depends on it. Because it does. Now you speak like someone who's been to the edge of doubt and chose belief anyway. Because small minds fold under pressure. But you were born to press back, not just survive the storm. Become it, not just face resistance. Rise because of it. You are no longer here to see how things go. You are here to make them go the way you see. That's the shift. From victim to visionary, from follower to force, from passive observer of life to an architect of reality. Because once your mind expands, it never returns to its old dimensions. Once you taste purpose, comfort becomes poison. Once you stand in your power, you can't pretend you're weak. So don't pretend anymore. Don't delay. Don't shrink to fit the world you were never meant to obey. Instead, command it. Speak with conviction. Move with purpose. Think with precision, because the world doesn't just need more noise, it needs more clarity, more depth, more men and women walking this earth like they belong to something greater, because they do. You do. You belong to a lineage of giants, of dreamers, doers, inventors, revolutionaries, people who bled for something bigger than comfort, who saw impossibility not as a wall, but as a challenge, who broke through, not because they were superhuman, but because they refused to stay small. Now it's your turn. Let the old version die. Let the fear dissolve. Let the doubt burn. And in its place, build something unshakable. Build a mind that's so focused, so free, so relentless, it turns every setback into a stepping stone. Because you're not here to cope. You're here to conquer. You're not here to manage. You're here to master. You're not here to fit in. You're here to stand out, speak up, rise higher, and pull others with you. So remember this, you can't win big with a small mind, but if you build it, if you commit, daily, relentlessly, urgently, you won't just win. You'll become the kind of person who rewrites what's possible. You'll become the proof. You'll become the fire that wakes up the world. And from that moment forward, you'll never think small again.